We conquer cancer. For the mom-to-be who is out of treatment options. For the doctor who has a brilliant idea but needs research funding. For the people who faced cancer head-on and climbed incredible heights while they were with us. For the children who celebrate the end of chemo. We conquer cancer for all who have been touched by it. Conquer Cancer accelerates breakthroughs in research and care for every cancer, every patient, everywhere. Join us at conquer.org.
This holiday, whether you're making a Kroger Simple Truth turkey for 40 or a Murray's Baked Brie for 2, Kroger has fast, fresh delivery and free pickup, so you can make holiday meals that bring you all together to create memories that last. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Free pickup on orders of $35 or more. Restrictions may apply.
Choose from a great selection of digital coupons and use them up to 5 times in one transaction. Check our app for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
And it listened to me. It walked out of the thicket. It turned around and looked at me.
They looked up, and in this tree, there was a monkey man. And the monkey man jumped down out of the tree and started running away.
And suddenly they're right in front of the car. He slams on the brakes and manages to stop, and he's skidding because it's like quite, gravelly. And literally for about a second and a half, they just stood there because they don't know where to go, and you tell them panicking. They're like really flapping, and their face is like twitching.
Welcome back to Bigfoot Society, a podcast where we focus on cryptids, the strange, and the unexplained of this world. If you've got a story or something weird to share, send an email over to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support this show, head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now, on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, I have the privilege of chatting to Mr. Zack Hall today. How's it going, Zack?
Oh, going good. Going great. How are you, Jeremiah?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm having a great start to the weekend to get to do an interview. It's what I like to do best. For listeners that may not be familiar with Zack, he is the cameraman, one of the cameramen on some of your favorite outdoor shows. The one that most of the listeners will be familiar with is, of course, Expedition Bigfoot. But he's also been involved with things like Deadliest Catch and Swamp People. And what else should the listeners know about you, Zack, before we get chatting about stuff?
If there's any shows that they watch and they enjoy that is rough and outdoors, I've probably been on it. Life Below Zero, Swamp People, Wicked Tuna, Dirty Jobs. Just anywhere they want to send somebody to be miserable, it's usually me.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. That's why I get the job with Russ.
Oh, yeah, because that's got to be that's the worst you can get, right? Of course, now Russ is a good dude, but what is the most, that'd be fun. What's the most miserable situation you've been in on a camera shoot for a TV show?
No sleep for days, freezing to death, getting soaking wet. Everybody hates you and they're angry on those crab boats on Deadliest Catch. It's
really?
Easily, just like psychologically and mentally it gets you. And then, I would say after that, probably Life Below Zero. It's like 30, 40 below and you're living in a tent and
oh my goodness,
kind of just stuck out there. You got to wake yourself up and just get psyched to go and work. And it's, some days it's not as fun as you'd think, but other days it's like an adventure. So
that's awesome. How, how did you first get into becoming this cameraman that gets to go on all these crazy adventures? How did that start back in the day?
It's funny because I'm from Southeast Kentucky.
Okay.
And everybody always notices. I don't know if it'll come across on the podcast. That's sarcasm. This accent, it's pretty thick. So everybody's like, "Oh yeah, this hillbilly. He'll probably work for a bologna sandwich. Cheap. Production companies love cheap people." And they knew that I could be outside. I had survival training and stuff and experience. So they always were like, this guy could at least survive for us.
That's awesome. So you are. I've talked to a few other camera guys before, and man, you get through some crazy stuff. Like Evan B. Stone. Brian C. Weed, talked to those guys before. That's more like the Expedition X guys. But you mentioned you have survival training. Where'd you get your survival training from? That's interesting.
I've done a couple of different things in the military when I was younger.
Oh, okay.
I was a cop for a while.
Oh, wow.
Which is not survival training, but a lot of PT.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just always raised outdoors here in Kentucky. Spent almost every day, every weekend outdoors with my dad and my brothers. And so,
okay.
You learn how to get around.
That's awesome. Yeah. And were you doing a lot of hiking and hunting when you were growing up, things like that?
Oh, yeah. Hiking, hunting. And I mean, like, seriously, living in the woods, like the house is in the woods. So it's like you go outside to play. You're just, hopping logs down in creeks. Camping was just, hey, we're going to stay outside tonight. So it's like
that's awesome. Yes.
Yeah. The experience of growing up like that. So
that's great. Were you a tent guy or a hammock guy or what kind of camping would you do?
Nothing. No, that's what's kind of funny with Expedition Bigfoot.
Okay.
Production was like, hey, you guys, we've got tents for you to use, all this. And me and Russ were just like, we're going to move faster. Like, this is later on in the other seasons. It's like, we're going to move faster and stuff, and this is what we're used to. We're just going to camp without a tent. We're going to roll up and, unless there's weather, then we'll throw tarps. But, it's a lot more fun, I think. And it's a lot easier to really know what's going on around you. And if you need to make a quick escape, you can make a quick escape.
Wow. So I've talked to a few people in that Kentucky, Tennessee area. On the Collins show and on the podcast, and they have really interesting, stories about just folklore from their area. Were there any like interesting things you remember from growing up in the Kentucky area, or like legends, folklore, anything weird that sticks out in your mind that you encountered? Or
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like ghost stories growing up. Everybody's had like a ghost story.
Oh, wow.
In season 2, after I got injured, Bryce came over and I just talked to those guys about, my dad's story. My dad had a Bigfoot sighting when he was, like 17 here in Kentucky, not far from where I grew up. And I think that's one of the reasons he loved to like take us out into the woods when we would go camping on the weekends and stuff. He'd like secretly be looking, he'd tell us all these stories. And so, yeah, I mean, I grew up with all that stuff, and it's kind of like where my head's been at a lot lately, developing other shows based in Appalachia about the folklore. We've got the Haints, which are just, and so it's funny, Jeremiah. I was trying to get ideas so I could pitch a show and shoot some stuff. And I sent out this call to people on Facebook, and I was like, hey, anybody around this area, if you've got stories, tell them to me. And I got a handful, and they were like talking about skinwalkers. Shapeshifters, goat legs, all that stuff. Oof. And they were like, oh yeah, it's on this hill behind this college. And I was like, whoa, that's where I live. Let's not. I don't want none of these stories.
No way.
I'm like, that's my yard. We're good. Let's not do that. And
that's wild.
So yeah, I was like, man. So then every time I would walk outside after that, I'd see the deer in the bottom, and I'd be like, oh, you better be a deer, not a not deer. So I was like, it's
wow.
So that's life here.
That's just how it is. And it sounds like it's so cool. The one guy I was talking to, he's talking about like banshees and stuff, or, you see the one Bigfoot type creature and then, hey, you're in trouble. You're probably headed out. You see that dark figure, Man.
Well, and that was the thing. One of the stories somebody told me was that they were just hiking up here on the mountain where I live, and they heard someone call their name out, and it sounded really familiar and almost sounded like theirs. And I was like, man, if I walked outside and somebody was just like, Zach, and it sounded like me, I'd be like, well, time to move.
Yeah. Well, see you later, kids. That's the thing. It's like you hear all these stories about, like you don't go outside after dark in Appalachia. And I'm thinking I've seen more videos where it's like West Virginia, but I guess the same applies up and down the entire, mountain system.
It's just the broom above the door. Have you heard that one? You put the broom above the door?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you put a broom above your door, and maybe some old timey ones you can still see it. And whenever the haints would come in, they would stop and they would count the bristles on the broom, and that's how you would occupy them until it's time to,
That is amazing. So, can you define for listeners that might not know what exactly a haint is?
Well, from what I know, from where I'm from, it's similar to a ghost. It's kind of what they call the ghost. Could be a cross between like a spirit ghost and a witch type thing. It really just takes a lot of different stuff under its umbrella here in Appalachia. So it's just haints.
That story reminded me of the legend about the Rougarou in Louisiana. And supposedly one of the things you can do is you always keep 13 pennies on you to throw down on the ground if a Rougarou is chasing you, because they'll stop and count the pennies and then you can get away. So maybe there's something about, cryptids, legends, they can't really count that good, or they get distracted.
It's real slow counters. They run out of fingers.
Oh, it's funny. I'm curious. So let's we'll start here. So you already said that you have experience, a little experience with Bigfoot in your upbringing because your dad had that story. So what was your reaction like when you probably got an offer about like, hey, there's this Bigfoot show, they want you to be the cameraman? What was that initial, like, you heard about the offering for Expedition Bigfoot? Were you excited? Were you like, I don't know? Or
oh no, I was definitely excited.
All right.
That's, if nothing else, it does bring me back to my youth and watching the shows with my dad, and so it's a connection I have with him, and then plus my own interest in the subject, and especially after being out on the show, it does grow even more. You're like, oh yeah, so to know that it's going to be a Bigfoot show and you're going to go out and stay out in the wild and explore and get to do like real research in one spot. You're not just like, because so much with TV, they want to save money. Production companies want to save money. They want to move in quick, move out quick. And here was one that's like, no, we're going to go in here. We're going to do this. We're bringing on people that really want to just prove or disprove. And we're just going to get buried into it. And I was like, oh, dude, that'd be fun, And like I said, I grew up camping, telling ghost stories, hearing ghost stories. So just getting to go out and, hope you see something, experience something. And if not, Russell's not too fast. He likes to think he can outrun me. No. But, if you get scared, you got Russell there to take care of you. So.
Good old Russ. Yeah. Had you heard of any of the people on the team before you had you got involved with the show, or was it a thing that you met them once you met everyone with the team?
Yeah. It was all new.
All right,
I'd
cool.
never heard of them. It's funny because one of the first shows I worked on when I got into reality TV was Finding Bigfoot. And,
really?
Yeah, they came to Kentucky and just needed somebody local as a PA, and I was like, I can do that. And
that wasn't on your IMDb. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
maybe it was, but
no, I don't think it is. Maybe I don't know.
All right.
But yeah. So I got, and it was the year before my dad passed away.
Okay.
And I tried my best to get him to go on there and tell his story, and he
Oh, wow.
debated back and forwards and was a little afraid to, and because of the stigma that a lot of
Sure.
people get with Bigfoot and stuff.
Sure.
And I think shows like Expedition Bigfoot and Finding Bigfoot, and
Mm-hmm.
especially the stuff that's outside of networks, like when you watch something online and you get to see like real like people that just are so passionate about it that are not like hindered by production companies and stuff that can
Sure.
just really bury themselves into it. I think the stigma is starting to disappear a little bit.
Oh
And,
yeah, I mean, you have like there's so much solid online content now. You have like I mean, I can think of you got Small Town Monsters, you got solo researchers that are putting out their own documentaries like Jonathan Easley, Tate Hieronymus. It's just like you can watch for hours and hours on YouTube now, and it did not used to be like that back in the day. Was there a point where let's say the Expedition Bigfoot production realized, hey, this cameraman we've got, he knows a little bit more about Bigfoot than we had thought, and maybe they started to bring you into things? Was there like a turning point that you noticed? Or
Well, I think the first season, everybody's trying to learn how they're going to do it. They're trying to learn productions, trying to figure out how they're even going to tell the story. Our researchers are out there just trying to get whatever they can in the window of time that they're out there. And they're also learning how to work with each other. So it was all kind of just, that first season you're learning.
Sure.
Come the second season, especially like me and Russ being out there together, like I'm close with all the guys, all the researchers, Maria, Ronnie, Bryce, we're all very close. But like when I'm out with Russell, we kind of have to have each other's back. It's like just us there. And it's like, you're just so like relying on each other. You get really close. And at some point in season 2, when we're just doing the research, after I got injured, especially.
Sure. Yep.
When I came back for Washington, I actually shouldn't have been out there. I still had a knee brace on most of the time.
Oh,
and
wow.
So it was a lot of me like, calling out to Russ, telling Russ, I don't want to do this, or, I don't feel safe in this. One, because of my knee. I didn't want to re-injure it. And 2, I mean, we got into some situations where it was just like, I'm all that's here. Like, we have to communicate. And I think production saw, okay, well, it's good. Here's a sounding board for Russell.
Right.
And then Zach does know what he's talking about. Like there's a handful of times you don't see it on TV. There's a handful of times where I'm like, Russell, this way. This is what we need to, let's do.
Oh,
this.
really?
Yeah. Russell, I'm sorry if you're listening. I'm taking credit for some of the stuff. But
as you should. Sorry, Russ. Zach came on the podcast first, so I'm saying wink, wink.
Oh, he'll be here now just to outdo me.
Oh, he will. Bring it on, Russ.
But yeah, so I mean, and so they did. They started, and they saw the connection I had with Russell, and so they, I mean, it comes out natural, and they just at some point they also have no other footage to use. Like it's like, okay, Zach and Russell are talking nonstop. This is what they're doing. They're in this together. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah, thinking over I'm trying to think over the series seasons that have been so far. And it's like at first, I think there's a few times where it's like the cameraman started talking and you would catch certain things and you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then like you started to really get like, to be a bigger part of the series. It's kind of an interesting, kind of you've had your own little story arc, bringing the guy behind the camera, and it had that almost that like, I love found footage movies, but it's a very interesting take on things. But can you remember a time where you're out there with Russ or whenever, and like things got really intense, or you're like, I don't know if we need to be here right now. This is a little bit too intense.
One time? Oh, okay.
More than one time. Okay.
It's funny too, because I mean, I get hired for these jobs because, let's send the hillbilly. He'll do it. And I will. I'll go do this stuff. I'm not too afraid. But some moments you get in, I mean, and that's the moments they want to use usually for TV or anything is, oh, hey, we're going to break the fourth wall because, Zach just crapped his pants. So, but, okay, I can think of one, season 1, when the thermal image that Russell got.
Yes.
Like, you don't hear it because it doesn't make the cut on TV, but Russell's sitting there and he's like starting to freak out. He's like, Russell freak out. Okay. It's like a calm freak out. Like,
okay.
Oh my God, I've got something. That's a Russell freak out for you.
Yeah. That's a Russell freak out. Gotcha. Okay.
But, he's looking through his thermal imaging goggles and he's telling me what he's seeing, and I can't see it because, he has this little device that he syncs the Bluetooth to, and I can see it if I need to. And he's blocking it with his arm, and I don't know what's going on out there because it's pitch black. And he's like, "Are you seeing this, Zach? Are you seeing this?" I'm like, "No, Russell, no." I'm like, "Move your arm, stop." Like, I was getting annoyed because things are going on. And then I see this on that little bitty phone, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's something out here with us." Like,
wow.
And of course we go over after it. And as we're going, we have to cross some stream, and where the stream is like some big rocks and boulders. So I'm like handing him my camera as I just jump across. It's pitch black. You can't see anything outside the IR. And he accidentally double taps my record button.
Oh no.
So I'm not recording anymore. So I'm sitting here walking behind him, and I see I'm not recording. My headphones came unplugged. So I'm trying to plug them up. I hit the record button, and he's starting to disappear out of my IR range. So like I can't see him anymore.
Oh no.
And I'm like, Russell, wait. You just saw this big thermal, and I'm like, Russell, and
get back here.
And this is also one of the first times, because it's the first season. It's one of the first times like we really are just getting to know each other, just getting in a groove. And he's running off and leaving me, and I've got nothing. And I was frustrated because he double tapped and all this stuff. And he got out of my distance, and I was just in a panic. And I guess you can see it in season 2. Sometimes I just scream. So I'm just like, Russell, wait! I scream really loud. And he just got mad. He's like, what? So we had that little moment, and then we went on. And I think, I was glad we didn't stumble on nothing when we were going there, because as you pointed out, as my story arc goes, I'm the guy that gets disposed of first. This character is the one that gets eaten when we go out there. So if it's a bear or a cat or whatever, bye, Zach.
That's actually bringing that up. Were there any situations where, you're in areas that it's not just Bigfoot? Did you have any, situations where you're running into other animals besides Bigfoot that didn't make the camera cut? Yeah.
And I think like, that's the thing too, is, I'm not trying to fool viewers. I want everything to play out the way it should.
Sure.
A lot of times, I can see cuts where I'm like, oh, they're using the audio where I got scared because of this, because we wandered into a cat den or something. Like, like sometimes we're like, you smell that. And it's a really intense scene because we really don't know what we've stumbled upon. And then that's why, if you read some message boards, people are like, why did they just leave that alone? Why didn't they follow up on that? Well, it played into the edit as a build-up moment.
Sure.
But, we smelled a cat and we got out there. It's like, we need to move. We know there's a cat here.
Right.
And, safety does come first. But and we don't control the edit. We don't do none of that. And we have the best edit team, I think. They do such a good job of storytelling. But like, it is, there's moments where, we've seen bear, we've seen cats. Russell pepper sprayed me in the face once.
Okay, I'm gonna need to hear that story. That's pretty intense. That's amazing, Zach. I don't think that was in the show, was it? I don't remember that. Show. No. Well, he's our expert survivalist. Sure.
So we've been hiking all day. We were tired. This was a moment where we knew where we were going on the GPS. We're going to the road. This is where we're going to do like a refuel, getting some more water, new batteries, whatever. So PAs and medics were going to come and just, make sure we're all okay.
Sure.
And I'm like, we had just shot this little scene. I'm like, Russell, go over here and show me, just walk me through how to use this bear spray, in case cats come and stuff. Because this was early on in season 1. We're like, okay. we're just teaching. This was an educational. We're going to also learn while we do this. And he's, probably 50 feet away, and he sprays it. And oh man, hold on, my Siri started working for some reason.
You're good.
He sprays it, and it looks really good. You see the big, huge spray from it, and okay, cool. He hoses it. We hike back out. We smell a cat. We keep going, and we make it to a road. And our PA's there, our medic's there, and we go to sit down on this little ATV. And I'm like mad at Russell. I'm like, I want to drive. Like we don't ever get to this. I'm driving this thing, and he's like, okay, that's fine. And he takes his bag off and he throws it in the back, and I'm up at the driver's at the steering wheel, and we have a PA sitting beside me and a medic beside me. Russell climbs into the back and he sits down, and I'm already kind of annoyed with him because he's drugged me all over the hills. Like these are the days we look forward to because we're going to get a little break. Drags me all over the hills. I'm ready. I'm like, oh yes. Sit down and I hear, shh.
Oh my goodness.
I think he's wasting our canned air. I'm like mad at him because he's a prankster too. Russell's really funny.
Is he really? Okay.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think he's wasting our canned air, and I'm kind of annoyed. So I'm like, Russell, are you? And I turn around, and right as I turn around, the bear spray straight in my eye.
Oh my goodness.
Just sprays it. Gets all over the PA's neck and burns him. And yeah, it was a bad moment. We're flushing water out of our eyes, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry. I apologize." And but we got over it. It was a fun moment. It was not a TV moment, but
oh wow, how incredible would that have been to see? That's fun. That's funny. Thankfully, you went through it. Wow, yeah. Something that always you see in the show, and you see. Yeah, I've seen some recordings of Russell when he's at certain Bigfoot conferences. There's always a focus on how big the backpack is. So I'm curious, are you lugging around a backpack just as big?
Yeah, mine's just as big.
Wow.
Mine's not as fluffy as his. Like he's got everything in the world that we kind of like. We make it so that when we are moving, he carries most of our living stuff, and then his stuff that he needs directly. And then I carry all the camera equipment, batteries, food stuff, anything else. It's all in my bag. So, it's not. I'd say it's not as heavy as his because he also has shovels, and he's a true survivalist. So he brings everything that he knows he needs, and then anything else I can throw in there to make mine lighter so that I can carry the camera. But
you throw a few bricks in there when he's not watching.
Oh, Maria and Ronnie have put rocks in his bag before.
Oh, really? That's great. That is fantastic. I could see the team going back and forth with some pranks, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. I think the listeners would want me to try to talk to you, and you can keep it vague if you need to. But Bryce was mentioning. I just talked to him. Last week we were talking about how filming was going, and he mentioned that the upcoming season with Alaska was that pretty wild up there, or?
I have to be vague with it, Jeremiah.
Okay, we'll be vague.
Yeah, that's
extremely vague.
That's what I have to be like really vague with. Like that's and I mean you'll find out. I think the show starts airing in January, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So there's a lot of secrets that will be revealed. But
I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
But I have to be like, I'm not as protected as Bryce. Like, Bryce is in front of the camera full time, does his own thing, and if I break NDAs, goodbye career.
Oh, that's yeah. The common man always forgets about the NDAs, and it's crazy because I've talked to some people in the past, and they've literally had to been like, well, let's see, my NDA lasted for 10 years. So, and we just, the viewer doesn't think about like these NDAs could last for 8 to 10 years. And you got to be careful about what you talk about, or you could land in hot water. So,
yeah. Oh, trust me. Listen, season 3, that footage that Russell had on the mountain through his scope, I wanted so bad to just leak it. Like we talked about just leaking it,
Oh yeah.
like we were like, people need to see this stuff. Like that's how convincing it was for us. Like we want people to see this so they can start talking about it. Like we want to know more. And you know, I'm not a millionaire. so as soon as you put that out there, it's like, oh, no job, and I still have to pay all that? I don't have a job to pay for it. Come on, Judge.
Sounds great. You know, being involved with the show in starting, you know, to be almost it's almost like you're, you know, you could say a character on the show, you know, like, you know, have you started to get recognized, or people try to contact you and tell you their Bigfoot story or anything cool like that?
Yeah.
Because
yeah. I mean, especially back home, like it's insane how many people have come forward to be like, hey, let me tell you a story I have over here in this holler, or, you know, let me bring you a piece of evidence and tell me what you think. And that's pretty cool. I went down and saw the gang when they were in Tennessee for a convention.
Oh yeah.
And people were just like, oh, it's the cameraman. It's Russell's cameraman. And I was like, oh, cool. And it's kind of a position that's started to happen on some of the other shows too, with dirty jobs.
Okay.
You know, Mike Rowe will make fun of me all the time, or, you know, he's kind of included me in some of the stand-ups at the beginning, the opens. And so, you know, slowly becoming America's favorite cameraman. That's very incompetent.
There you go. And maybe someday you'll be not behind the camera, but in front of it.
Maybe. You never know.
You never know. Is there a time you could think of where, you know, you're out with Russ, you're filming him, trying to get footage for the show, and he's about to do something, and you're trying to talk him out of it, like, you know, just like, Russ, you do that, you're gonna kill yourself. Like, stop doing that. Any crazy stuff like that? Or
oh yeah. Well, I mean, because a lot of the stuff, if he does it, I have to either go with him or we're not gonna film anything. So there's a lot of stuff that happens. And the bridge in Washington where he found the footprint,
goodness. Yeah,
it breaks my heart, because you know what, I was the one that saw something. He goes down there and he gets a footprint, and I was not with him when he discovered it. You know, I'm trying to find my way down, because again, I still had the knee brace on. I'm like trying my best to get down this mountain. And he's like, I'm going to go over. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you can't go over. I can't go over. And he's like, I'm going. I was like, fine, if that's what you're going to do. I said, but you're going to go down there. And this is a real like situation that doesn't come across on the TV, because it can't. It's not the type of show.
right.
So we're just having this little spat for a minute where it's like, if you go, you're not going to get it filmed. Nothing's happening, Russell. Like, I can't. And Russell, honestly, and I commend him.
Mm-hmm.
He goes over, he takes his camera, and he goes and he gets stuff. And
wow,
you know, that's on me for, you know, not being able to go over. I was just not ready to. It was dark. It was quick. Like, I don't know. So that's one of those that bothers me. But, you know, stuff like that happens all the time too. In Northern California, we went through a spot that didn't make it on TV either.
Really?
Where just the trees, like, were just like, you know how big these redwoods are. They redwoods? Yeah, I think they're redwoods.
Oh yeah, you got your Endor stuff from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we were walking through this valley trying to get down it through this little holler, and our legs just kept popping through holes on this rotted wood.
Oh, man.
And I mean, you'd pop through and it's like a 20-foot fall into a big hole. And I'm like, Russell, we just don't need to be doing this. Like, we can
no way, dude.
Walk this way and go down the hill. But we did it because Russell's like, I'm going.
You know, I just, it's crazy that, you know, there have been situations that have happened, but, you know, it's crazy that someone hasn't gotten hurt even more through all the crazy stuff that you guys have done. Knock on wood, you know.
Wait for Alaska. Wait for Alaska.
Am I talking to the real Zach or robot Zach? We'll have to wait. You'll have to wait and see. Once,
it's like Hank Williams Jr. I grew this beard out to cover all the scars. Like
nice, dude. Nice.
It's 5-0.
Thinking over. Oh, holy mackerel. Wait a second. I'm going to be super professional right now. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I didn't have my computer plugged in.
Nice.
Such a really cool podcaster move of me. Sorry about that, Zach. At least it didn't turn off. Holy mackerel. So can you think of over the seasons you've been involved with Expedition Bigfoot, has there been times where you encountered something strange that you know, maybe not related to Bigfoot, but you couldn't really explain what was going on?
I mean, yeah, for me, I think the thermal that we saw, I think it could have been something supernatural, in my opinion.
Really? Oh, wow.
And then in Northern California, Russell had his tracker out, and we tracked this thing and chased it all over the place. And it just it would get oddly close and then oddly far away really quick, which was weird. And part of me wants to think it was a person, which is scary to think that a person was playing with us, that watched us plant these trackers.
Yep.
And was just playing games with us. Like,
yep.
To me, that's really scary. And then to see it, like, when we finally found this thing, and it plays out on TV a little different than it happened, because as we were coming up on it, like, it just disappeared. Like, it actually went off for a minute. And I don't know how that would happen when we were still right on top of it. So we look up and down the tree and stuff, and there's nothing. And then the hair on that came back as human hair, which could have been Bigfoot, you know, because we don't know the hairs.
Yeah.
But to me, like, that kind of stuff is scarier. Like, to think that somebody could be playing games with you. You know, we're miles and miles away from the other production.
Exactly. That's that's because you know, some of the areas you're in, there's people out. If there's people out there, they're not doing stuff that is the most legal, and you don't want to mess around with those dudes because they'll mess you up. But we'll leave it at that. You mentioned that, you know, there was that thermal, and you think there was something maybe supernatural going on. Is that something you can go more into? What your thoughts maybe were regarding that, or?
So I guess, and it's going to make me kind of sound a little crazy.
It's fine. This
I'm
is what we want.
I've accepted it.
All right, cool.
But, like, you know, and I tried to explain it in a way when they interviewed me for season 2. Not a Nephilim. Nephilim was there was a conversation we were just talking about. I don't, you know, think of the Nephilim, but, like, in my beliefs and the way that I feel about, like, paranormal stuff, ghosts and whatnot, you know, my Christian beliefs, my faith. If I believe in God, then, you know, Satan has to exist, the devil. Sure. And so sometimes I think this evil, you know, for lack of a better way to explain it, gets its power, gets its energy or whatever, gets its rocks off by playing with you. And I think that, you know, evil truly does know your heart, and it knows what you're looking for, it knows what you're out there doing, and it knows how to play those games. And so, you know, and people will be like, okay, well, if demons exist and all this stuff, where's the hard proof of that? Like, why can't we just see it? Why won't a demon pop up and be like, hey, I'm a demon?
Hey, what's up?
Because if it did that, it just completely ruined it. You know, the devil's whole plan's gone, because now here's proof for the world. Demons exist like this, so God exists. And then all the people are like, okay, well, God exists now, this and that. You know, it loses its power. So
that's interesting.
It's a long way to put it, but, like, so seeing stuff like that, I really think sometimes if you don't see it, like, you know, Bigfoot, Russell 100% is convinced that Bigfoot is flesh and blood. Ronnie is 100% convinced it can go through portals. He can go through, no doubt, yeah. You know, so we have both sides of that there. And then, you know, I'm like, this, both ways it could go. I can lean both ways. But, like, you know, I feel like until we find, or anybody finds, like, hardcore body evidence, I have to believe that it's some kind of evil thing. Just, you know, not necessarily evil, but, like, some kind of, like, paranormal. Like, I don't know. It gets tricky because there's all these ways.
It does. It really does. And there's so many different ways you can look at it, right? And, like, I've had so many different viewpoints on the show. I mean, you can you can go everywhere from, Wood Ape in Oklahoma with NAWAC, or you can go with, Bigfoot going through portals and alternate dimensions, and or you can go the Nephilim Genesis 6 route, and there is so many interesting viewpoints you can take, or maybe a missing evolutionary link, things like that. There's a lot of different viewpoints that one can take. At the end of the day, though, it's we haven't captured it, so we quite don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Everyone just has their own opinion about it at the end of the day, right? But it is wild. Were you involved with the scene where Ronnie sees like the shadows going across the side of the cliff, or was that's a different camera guy, I'm guessing? Yeah. Okay. That part always messes around me, but that's all right.
And see, and so with that too, that's that's why a lot of times when you hear Russell, he'll be like, it's just me and Zach out there. He'll emphasize that a lot, because it is just me and Russell out there. The other team is 2 camera guys, because there's two talent to follow, 2 camera guys, and then because of that, they'll have another person that carries batteries and does everything else, like an AC,
interesting
producer. So they it's a little heavier on their side, which is, also I think why, me and Russell will get into situations to where it's like, oh gosh, how are we here? Why are we here? We're like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, and they're the other side of the gang.
Are you Scooby-Doo, or is Russ Scooby-Doo, or is it kind of switch back and forth?
Oh man, Russ is probably Scrappy.
Scrappy-Doo?
He's Scrappy-Doo. Let me at him.
Oh, he's gonna. Those are fighting words when you're calling someone Scrappy-Doo.
He's Scrappy-Doo. He'd like to think he's Fred, but.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. You mentioned earlier that you were involved with a bit on finding Bigfoot back in the day. Is that anything that you can talk about? I know NDAs can last for a long time, or is that anything that you can share?
I mean, I can talk about I can talk about like my experience on it, but like I said, it came local and they just needed PAs. So a lot of the stuff that I did was just like assisting before they would go out and assisting when they would come back in, or driving and stuff. It was, the simple stuff throughout the day. And I like never went out with them like I do for this show. So it really wouldn't be much, except for like the cast was great. Honestly, I had a good time with them, good experience with them. Renee still reaches out sometimes. So
nice.
Yeah, I had a good time with them. But nothing really, meaty.
Gotcha. So over the years, it sounded like, you've been kind of into Bigfoot before the show as well. Are you a big reader as well? Do you read a lot of different Bigfoot books, or?
I read, I mean, I wouldn't even say I'm a big reader in general. I read, like, I don't pick up a book unless I'm flying to read. Okay. A lot of the stuff I read are articles online, newspapers. I guess my ADD, my attention span to follow a full story starts to fall off unless I'm trapped on a plane.
I gotcha.
Yep. I'll read a lot in Alaska when I'm filming shows up there, because there's nothing else. But, because there's a lot of downtime on some of these shows. And, but yeah, I've done a lot of research on it and stuff too. And I do think that's why, going back to what you asked earlier, I do think that my experience in it is also a reason that I have kind of crossed that line a little more than the other camera guys and the other producers. And, because there's a lot of times, like I said, I'm involved with like moves that me and Russell are making, just based on stuff I've researched and based on like things that I believe. Sometimes Russell's like, all right, let's go with yours. Let's see how this leads,
wow.
And so, and it's nice to have that, relationship with it, you know? So
Yeah.
it
So
makes the
you're
job a lot
talking about
easier.
like let's try like coming at it from this angle, or like stuff like wood knocks or call blasting, or what kind of stuff exactly?
Russell won't do wood knocks, but
Oh,
like,
really?
no, he don't want to do wood knocks.
All right.
But just places that we'll set up and stay, like, because we'll move, we'll make big, huge moves, and then we'll post up. We'll make a little base of our own and work
Okay.
out of that and explore, and just deciding on directions we'll move that day. And okay, well, this kind of seems like one night he didn't want to stay on the water, like down on the water. And I was like, let's just stay down here. Let's just see, because my dad's experience was in water,
Oh, okay.
And he's like, I don't like to stay near the water because, it takes away that advantage you have with hearing stuff. And so, but he's like, but yeah, let's try it. Let's see what we get. And, we heard stuff on the water one night, and, nothing, I guess, that made TV, because again, it becomes led by Zack, which at that point is not,
That's a good point. Yeah. Yep. That's true.
So,
Oh man, that's too bad.
yeah.
Wow. I bet you there's just hours and hours of footage that is not used if you think about it.
So much. And that's kind of that's kind of the letdown of some of this, is like how little you do see on there. Like, because and I know a lot of people will ask about the stories, and like, oh, how funny is it that Bryce is interviewing this person, and then that's what this story episode's about, and and that's just because that's the magic of editing.
You're kind of telling a story, right? So it
Exactly
has to happen.
And I mean, trust me, I'm as somebody that's there firsthand, you're not going to want to watch all that stuff. A lot of that stuff is just watching paint dry, or us walking, or us singing songs way too loud, and Russell getting annoyed at me because I'm like, won't shut up. He's like, you got to be quiet, dude. Like, stop. I'm like, no, Russ, there's nothing here. I don't feel it, Russell. Let's just get, like, I want to talk. Let's talk. And then, there's other nights where it's just so intense, and you're just like, you're not sleeping because, you just get that feeling. You get those hairs on your arms raising, and you're just like, something's here. Like, and those are the good nights.
So a lot of people mention that, like, usually, sometimes, and I mean, this could be just like intuition, or it could be something like infrasound. You've experienced feeling a certain way when you're about to have like Bigfoot interactions, or that's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, no, all the time. Like,
really,
and that's also a moment where I realized too, like, hey, this is something to be noted for our show too. It's like there's times when Russell is just like, whoa, like when Russell gets to that point where he's like,
okay.
My arms are standing up like that, and I'm like, yeah, no, I get it too, trust me. And that's when stuff usually pops off. That we saw a thermal. Well, I didn't see the thermal. He did in his goggles. And he sees this thermal on the side of a tree. And then we hear something circling around us. And he's like, okay. He's like, let's move closer and go down there. And I'm already like, like just crawling, like real slow, like, oh man, I don't know if we need to move towards this.
Right.
And I even say to him many times, like all the time, I'm like, you want to go this way, Rose? I don't know about that. And it's the intuition or that feeling, or it could be the infrasound. It's but something tells you like this stuff. Something's going on. Like, and that's usually too when we get good stuff. We've been tracked before. Like, we've been followed many times. Like, where you have that feeling of there's something behind me. Like, and I'm the guy in the back. Like, I'm like, oh gosh.
Too bad you didn't have a setup where you could film behind you at the same time.
About that.
Really?
We talked about setting up stuff. I mean, it's extra weight, extra batteries, all this stuff.
Sure.
And it really depends on, where the show would go in the future, which it could be one of the gimmicks we'll try in the future, because, it's at some point, like, yeah, you want to do different things. We want to be as real as we can be. And if something's, weighing me down and we're trying this gimmick and it's slowing us down and it ain't working,
Yeah.
then of course it's going to hinder the way that Russell, Murray, and Ronnie all hunt. You know, like all of a sudden we're stopping them down because no, we can't. Like there's something going on. This just died. This is not working. This is, you know, weighing us down.
Sure.
We don't have enough batteries, and then the show becomes fabricated because it's like, okay, I got to stop you. We got to do this, and okay, let's do this now. You know, because we missed our moment. So, and we don't want to do that.
There were so many opinions about Expedition Bigfoot. You know,
I've read.
You've read it all. That's the interesting thing about this show is how involved everyone is on social media. And like, I'll be in a group and all of a sudden Russell pop out of nowhere and be like, "Well, actually," and I'm like, "Oh, well, right."
Yeah,
you know, and hey, that's just the world we live in. You know, like.
I think it's that, and I think it's how passionate they are about what they're doing.
True.
Like, you know, I mean. And on top of that, Maria has a reputation. Like
True.
She legit has so much riding on what she does. So I understand her wanting to be there to be like, let me tell you guys, let me explain it to you a little more so you can get a clearer picture.
Yeah, gotcha.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't do this with a lot of the other shows. Like this show has become a passion for me too, you know. And I care about the people. So
do you think you'll be, you know, let's say hypothetically in the future, there has to be a point where there will no longer be Expedition Bigfoot. Something can't go on forever. We'd want it to, but could you see yourself still wanting to go out into the woods, you know, go on some crazy Bigfoot adventures, even though you're not the cameraman anymore?
Oh yeah. Me and Russell have already talked about, you know,
really?
Once this is over, you know, going and doing stuff and filming it, and you know, just so we can document it and have it, and going and exploring on our own. And we've even talked about, you know, the possibility of like, you know, finding other people that are really passionate about it and going with us, you know, like having people go and
wow,
and really, you know, experiencing like what we truly do, because it don't come off the same on TV. I mean, I don't care what people think. They're not actors. So it's like,
sure,
you see the stuff and you're like, oh man, that's fake. Listen how they're saying that. That's fake. That's a line that was fed to him by a producer. Yeah, because you know what? I heard what he said, but I don't think it came across. Russell, say that again for me. That's a good thing. And Russell's not an actor. So it comes off like,
sure.
Hello, how are you today? I am Russell. So the things that people think are fake, it's because of us. It's the production side of things. We're asking these people to do things they don't normally do.
Right. Okay. I got you. That'd be very interesting to see, you know, potentially in the future, if there's like the Russ and Zach Bigfoot adventure show on YouTube.
Right. Oh,
and it would be totally different, you know, but you never know. Who knows what could happen, but
it would be fun.
Were you involved with the, there was a point, I want to say it was last season, I think, where, a few people actually went to Bluff Creek, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Were you involved with that at all, or?
I didn't go with them when they went to Bluff Creek. Okay. A lot of the stuff I do, I am just with Russell. Like when we go out, and if they do like pickup interviews later, there's some interviews, and I know the audience can see it, and they're like, "Whoa, that just seems a little different," or something. You know?
Right.
It's because you know, they've finished their hunt. And evidence comes back and they're like, oh, we need to talk about this, or we need to talk about this moment. So they'll have, you know, a separate interview team that will just, you know, get that really quick and have it.
Gotcha.
A lot of that stuff I don't do. I'll go on another show and be working or something. But the only time I'm really with Maria, Ronnie, or Bryce is if somewhere within the evidence that we found, we all have to come together. Outside that, like we'll get to set.
Okay.
We'll fly into our location. We'll get our gear. We'll have our safety meetings and everything. And then, you know, go. It's radio calls and whatnot. And
wow.
You know.
Is there
when we get together, we have a good time though. Sorry.
That's good. I think that's important, you know, like, because I could imagine, you know, most of this filming, you know, you're in some stressful situations, so it's important when you can to have the just like everyone hang out, have a good time. Are there Are there situations that you've been through over the seasons where you feel like maybe, it warrants going back and looking at it again, or you wish that you could have stayed longer in the one area, but you had to leave for some weird reason?
Yeah, for sure. Which I think that idea is what brought me and Russell to kind of have this idea of like, if the show ever goes off or it stops and we're in good health, if they do it for 10 years and Russell's 65 going to the woods, we might not have a future.
Yeah, maybe not.
But if it stopped and we were doing that, there's places that we've been through the show that we would love to go back and check out. And, one of them was that season 3, that mountain. We got rushed out of there because of the fire and the smoke, just like in Washington.
Sure, yeah.
And to just be able to go longer and stay and then not have the confines of seasonal fires and production needing like, okay, well, you know what? We're not going to pay you any longer to be there. If you're going to do it, it's on you. Like,
gotcha.
So yeah, I would say Northern California for sure. Even though we went to Washington twice, like that spot, there's just something about it. Like, the Olympic Peninsula, just it's
crazy.
There's something there,
dude. I've been out to we flew into Seattle once. We drove out to Forks and the Hoh Rainforest and all that. And this was way before I got really into Bigfoot, so I can't even imagine what it would have been like to see that area through the lens of someone who's into Bigfoot. It would have blown my mind. But man, stuff like that is happening all the time out there. Pacific Northwest is crazy.
I think too, and this is another thing I like to try to explain to people. I think when you're looking for something, your brain kind of makes it easier to see something.
Exactly.
Or, tricks you like, oh, this tree now looks like a man standing there because I'm looking for something to be standing there. And so like whenever I'm out in the Pacific Northwest, I'm like, oh man, I'm definitely going to run into Bigfoot across this tree here, behind this tree over there. He's here. I see that there. Oh, yep, that's it. And I think it's because you're sorry. I think it's because you're looking, and your brain will make it a lot easier to be fooled.
Oh, sure. Definitely.
I want to tell you real quick, because again, I'm from Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
When I came to Kentucky.
Okay.
They're right in my back door. That whistle, that sound that we heard that night.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard anything like that ever.
Really?
Like being from here, I've never heard anything like that. And that was probably one of the most shocking moments for me, just because, I'm from here. Like, I don't expect to hear anything like that. And the way that it played out on TV, and I actually watched a YouTube video where somebody tried to point out that the audio was like dubbed up. You saw 2 of them stacked. Again, that's the edit. We can't control how they edit that stuff. But I can tell you, when we were there, the whistle that we heard, and I think maybe because the way we tried to explain it so much, like it might have come across like, oh, well, you can't hear it in that audio because when you play it back, you don't hear it the way that I remember hearing it. And it was like, it's like if you take those little wooden train whistles, have you seen those? Like, woo, you blow in those, a higher pitch, but it sounded like it was on 2 levels the whole time. Not like it did it and then did it again. It was just like, whoo, 2 levels of a whistle. Weird. For a long, long time. And, it was really weird. And Russell's just like, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I've been here forever and never heard anything like that.
That would have been the weirdest, to have something like that happening on your home turf and you'd never experience it. That would be weird, man. That'd be weird.
It's got the scent of my blood in it. It's like Jaws. It's going to come over here to my holler and get me.
Uh-oh. He's coming to get you. Oh, man. Zach, this has been super fun chatting with you. One thing, though, I wanted to make sure that we raised awareness of is, so you're from the area of Kentucky that had, that intense, it was the intense floods that happened a few years ago now.
Oh no, this was, it was a 1,000-year flood. It happened back in July, 3 months ago.
Okay. That's my time is so screwed up. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I mean, that's the thing is a lot of people have never really paid much attention to Appalachia, Southeast Kentucky and stuff. And it kind of feels like the forgotten area of America. But to see so many people willing to help out, we lost several people in our community.
Oh, man.
And, you think about how small the place is. 1 or 2 people is a lot. And to lose 20 or more, it's just unreal. But people have really come together to help out. They've come from all over the country, and we're thankful for that. People have donated to help feed people, to help, get some of the infrastructure back. I think that's the biggest thing people don't understand about that flood. This region, it's just a bunch of hollers, a bunch of little roads that cross streams, and the flood wiped roads out, completely erased roads. Almost every bridge, I think 70% of the bridges in this area in 2,000 square miles wiped out.
Wow,
it's a massive infrastructure. It's just been bad. But it's on the mend. We're 3 months out. It's
okay. Yeah,
it's getting better, and it'll get better. It'll take a while, but I appreciate you thinking about us.
Oh, definitely. I remember you throwing a few things out there on social media about it. Is there a website that people can donate to any efforts for that area, or? There's
knotcountytourism.com. KNOTT, Knott County Tourism. That money goes to a foundation that we started for long-term recovery. It's going to help people build, as it starts to get colder, we're worried about people that are living in the shells of these houses that are left with no insulation, nothing. So we're trying to figure out how to keep these people warm through the winter as it comes. And knotcountytourism.com. You can, if you feel it on your heart, you can donate there, and it'll definitely go. That's straight to the people. That's not a big organization where it's anything else, thoughts and prayers help,
Oh, of course. That definitely put Knott County Tourism in the show notes for this. Definitely. Zach, we're pretty much at the end of the episode. This has been a fun chat, and this it really helped flesh out the story of what you see on TV and add a lot to it. So I thank you so much for coming on. Before you're headed out, take a few minutes. If there's anything that you would like to share about how people can keep up to date with what you're doing, or any projects you're working on, feel free to share those. Definitely.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for having me on. This is fun. I love to, talk about what I do, talk about the show, especially Expedition Bigfoot.
Right.
In 2 weeks, I'm heading out to Alaska for Life Below Zero. I'll miss Thanksgiving with my family.
Oh,
but that's why all this has grown out. Got to keep me warm. I think the second week of December, new season of Dirty Jobs comes on Discovery Plus. You'll see me plenty there. It's a lot of fun. And then January, I'm thinking in January, the new season of Expedition Bigfoot comes on.
Okay.
And so all that stuff coming down the pipe. Just stay tuned. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's just Juggernaut, JUGGERKNOTT. And then,
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for hanging out tonight, and you have a good one, Zach.
You too, Jeremiah. It's been fun, dude.
Thank you for listening to Bigfoot Society. If you like the show, please review and rate it 5 stars on iTunes. Hit the share button and send this episode to all your friends on social media. Subscribe to Bigfoot Society wherever you listen to podcasts. It doesn't cost a thing. Pick up a Bigfoot Society shirt or enamel pin over on our Etsy page, and people will tell you all about their Bigfoot sightings when you wear it. At least that's what people tell us. That's what happens. If you'd like to become an official member of Bigfoot Society with a membership card, a community of like-minded individuals, and extra content each month, then please consider becoming a supporter of the podcast by going to www.patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. Thanks for listening.
We conquer cancer. For the mom-to-be who is out of treatment options. For the doctor who has a brilliant idea but needs research funding. For the people who faced cancer head-on and climbed incredible heights while they were with us. For the children who celebrate the end of chemo. We conquer cancer for all who have been touched by it. Conquer Cancer accelerates breakthroughs in research and care for every cancer, every patient, everywhere. Join us at conquer.org.